Hello, first grade friends. It's Miss Plowman again, and I wanted to do another lesson with you today. And this lesson is more or less a review lesson over some skills that we've already talked about previously in our lessons that you've watched on the videos. But today's review lesson is going to consist of several reviews that you've already heard of and lessons that you've already had previously before. But some of the review things we're going to talk about is I can recognize a complete sentence. I can recognize nouns and verbs in sentences. I can recognize capital letters from lowercase letters. I can recognize correct spacing when writing a sentence. I can capitalize the first word in a sentence. I can identify a period, question mark, and exclamation point. I know a sentence ends with a period, question mark, or exclamation point. And that's a lot of things. So we felt like that we would just spend today to review those things with you. Okay? So to start out, we want to talk about and review what a complete sentence is. And here's what we said and talked about earlier what a complete sentence is. First of all, we know that it's a complete thought. When you read the sentence, it is a complete thought. Next, we said that a sentence always starts with a what kind of letter? A capital letter. Then we said that your sentence must make sense when you read it. It has to make sense. And finally, your sentence is going to end with some kind of punctuation mark, whether it's a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point. One of those three, okay? So those things tell us what a complete sentence is. So let's look at some examples of sentences and let's talk about them. All right, let's talk about the sentences that are complete or not complete sentences. Look at this first one up here where the smiley face is. It says, the frog jumped on the lily pad. If I read that to you, that is a complete sentence. We know it makes sense when I read it. We know it's a complete thought. Look here, it starts with a capital letter, the capital letter T, and it ends with a period, which is a telling sentence or statement. So those all tell me that it's a complete sentence. And I want to point out some other things in the sentence that's important for you to know and remember. We know too that nouns and verbs are usually supposed to be in a sentence when you read and write a sentence. So frog is a noun because it names a person, place, animal, or thing. And we also can call frog the naming part of the sentence because it's telling who or what the sentence is about. So in other words, a complete sentence also has a naming part, which tells us that, and it has a telling part. Sometimes you might hear the telling part referred to as the verb or the action word. And we had a lesson on verbs as well, didn't we? So if I say jumped, that word is the verb or the telling part that tells what the frog did or does in the sentence. What did it do? It jumped on the lily pad. Okay? So we know a sentence also begins with a capital, has the period because it's telling or a punctuation mark at the end. And then look where I have drawn these little purple lines between the words. The reason I did that is because when you write, you need to space and put a finger space between each of your words that you write in your sentence so that you can tell that your sentence is made up of words. If we don't space between our words, it looks like one big long mumbo jumbo of letters, and we can't make out what it is or what even it makes any sense. It doesn't. Okay? So those things are important. So we got our capital, and then all the other letters in the words that you noticed we call those lowercase letters. Okay? Let's look at the next sentence. You see a frowny face. Let's talk about why it's a frowny face. The frog. Well, if I say the frog, that is not a complete sentence because it doesn't make any sense. We don't know anything about the frog or anything about what the frog did in the sentence. It's not a complete thought. We've got a capital and we've got a punctuation mark at the end, which is a period. So it's not complete. We say incomplete sentence. Okay? And then we space between the two words. We have frog, which is our naming part, which tells what it's about. Or we say it's a noun, it's a thing or an animal. But it's not complete because we don't know the verb that tells what the frog did, or we call it the telling part. Okay, so we've got our capital letter at the beginning, our lowercase letters after in our other words, but it's not complete. It's incomplete because we don't know what the frog did in the sentence. All right, let's go to this one. Smiley face. Wonder what the smiley face means. That's right. It's a complete sentence. If I say the boy plays, well, let's talk about this sentence. We know it makes sense. It's a complete thought. We also know that it begins with a capital like it's supposed to, a big letter T in the, and our punctuation mark is at the end, which is a period again because it's a statement or telling sentence. The boy plays. I'm telling you that. Okay? And then we also have our naming part, which tells who or what's about, which is the boy. And we also, like we said, the boy is a noun because it's a person. And then it also has the telling part that tells what the boy does, which he plays. And plays is also a verb, the action word that tells what we do in the sentence. The boy plays. Okay, and then look at your last sentence. It's a frowny face. So what do you think frowny face would mean? It's not complete. The word just says plays. If I say plays, that's not complete sentence. It's incomplete. And the reason is it's not making any sense. It's not a complete thought. We've got our telling word, which is plays, which is the verb. It tells what you can do, but we don't know who or what the naming part is, which is the noun that tells who's doing it. Okay, so it's incomplete. It's not a complete sentence. Okay, we've got our lowercase letters here, our capital letter here, but it's not a complete sentence. Okay, that's a lot to take in, isn't it? A lot of things we talked about there in just those few sentences. Okay, now another strategy that Miss Rader talked to you previously about on one of her video lessons was the COPS strategy. When you hear me say COPS, it kind of makes you think of a police officer, doesn't it? Because they're all helping us and trying to ask questions and trying to do things to help us. Well, the COPS strategy is something we use to help us remember in order to remember the important parts when we're writing a sentence correctly. Okay? So the C in COPS, let me remind you, means capitalization. That means we're going to put the first word in the sentence with a capital letter, which we just talked about. The word I, when you see I standing alone by itself, we always give it a capital letter. That's a rule. And proper nouns. And we're going to talk about proper nouns more, but you just need to remember now, if it's a noun, the name of a person, place, animal, or thing, we're going to capitalize it, like Sue or Bob. If it's someone's name, we capitalize it. Or like a restaurant name, like McDonald's or Pizza Hut, you capitalize those. If it's the name of a store, like Kroger or Save-A-Lot, you capitalize those. If it's your pet names, like Spot or Rex, like your dog names or cat names, you capitalize those. That's what proper nouns are. The O in COPS is standing for organization. Now, what does that mean? That's a big word, isn't it? That means that you're going to be writing neatly when you write your sentences and your handwriting. You're going to be really neat and write your best that you possibly can. And you're going to spacing. That's important too. When you write sentences and write words in your sentences, you space. And if you need to space by putting your finger between the words as you write them to help you, do that. You can do that. Okay? And then P means punctuation. We've talked about that. Your punctuation marks should be at the end of your sentences. It might be a period if it's telling or a statement, a question mark at the end if it's asking a question and you would answer that person, or an exclamation point at the end of a sentence if it's strong feeling or you're really showing a lot of excitement about something, you would put an exclamation point at the end. So P is punctuation. And then finally, the S in COPS helps us remember spelling. Spelling means when you write your words that you're going to spell them the very best that you can. If you're writing a sentence and you're just copying the sentence and you've got the sentence there to look at and copy, you should be able to spell those words right and correct. But if you're trying to write a sentence on your own and you have some words that you're not sure how to spell, then I always tell my boys and girls, just say the word to yourself and sound and break the words apart and just write what you hear yourself say as you say them. Spell the best you can if it's a hard word and you're not sure how to spell it. So COPS, the COPS strategy, capitalization, organization, punctuation, and spelling. Okay? We use the COPS strategy, remember, to help us in order to write our sentence correctly and to be better at writing our sentences. Okay? Remembering these things. And one more thing that I'm going to talk to you and review, we just talked about, and I'm going to talk about again just for a few minutes or a few seconds, is period. We have our period here. Looks like a dot, doesn't it? We use a period at the end of a sentence if it's telling or a statement. If you hear me say telling sentence or a statement, they mean the same thing. It's two words, but they mean the same thing. So you would put a period at the end. Like I might say, I am at school, period. I'm telling you that. That's a statement. We would put a period at the end. Then we have question mark over here. There's what the question mark looks like. We see those at the end of a sentence if it's asking. And you would answer the question, asking, question mark. Okay, so I might say, how are you? Question mark. You would answer me and say, I'm fine today. Or I might say, who is that? Question mark. You might say, I don't know who that is. Okay, so question mark, you're asking, you would use a question mark at the end. And your final punctuation mark that we've talked about before is exclamation point. And that's right over here. Looks like a straight line with a dot at the bottom. We use that punctuation mark at the end of a sentence if it shows a strong feeling or if we're excited about something, if it's exciting. Like I might say a sentence that says, wow, that is great. I would use an exclamation point at the end to show that I really mean that with strong feeling. Or I might say something like, you did a great job on that today. Exclamation point at the end. Because you really want to show strong feeling when you say it and you want to really mean it. Okay? So we've got our period. We use at the end of a telling sentence or a statement. Question mark we use at the end if it's asking a question and you would answer with an answer or response. And exclamation point, there we go. We use at the end of a sentence if it's strong feeling or it's exciting. Okay? So that's a lot of stuff that I just reviewed with you, isn't it? Okay, a lot of things. We've covered a lot of those things already. So I want you to think about those things that we've just talked about and use that information to help you do your review practice that you have in your work for this week. And let me know if you have trouble and if you need help on some things so that we can help you with it. Me or one of your other teachers that you have seen on these videos. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you soon. Talk to you soon.